Lieutenant Senna Blackwood stood at the observation deck of the Starweaver, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling nebula before her. The research vessel had been her home for the past 3 years, mapping the outer reaches of human space. But today was different. Today, the void had whispered back. "Lieutenant, we've isolated the signal's origin," reported Communications Officer Jin Park, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's coming from Research Station Omega-7, but that's impossible. The station was abandoned during the Great Exodus." Senna's heart raced. For centuries, humanity had maintained its isolation, building defenses and hiding its true strength from the galaxy at large. After the devastating Perseus War, when alien forces had nearly wiped out their colonies, humans had chosen silence as their shield. "Show me," she ordered, moving to Jin's station. The signal pulsed on his screen, a rhythmic pattern that seemed almost familiar. "Can you decode it?" "It's using an old Earth cipher," Jin replied, his expression puzzled. "But there's something else mixed in, definitely not human in origin." Before Senna could respond, the ship's AI, Perseus, materialized beside them. Its holographic form flickered with concern. "Lieutenant Blackwood, I've detected multiple vessels entering the system. Their configuration matches no known human designs." Senna straightened, years of training kicking in. "Battle stations. Jin, send an encrypted burst transmission to Fleet Command. Perseus, begin emergency protocols." The Starweaver's asterisk corridors filled with the soft wail of alert sirens. Crew members rushed to their positions as Senna made her way to the bridge. Chief Engineer Rook Williams was already there, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. "3 vessels," Rook reported. "They're running silent, but our passive sensors are picking up energy signatures we've never seen before. They're heading straight for Omega-7. Senna took her command chair, mind racing through options. The Starweaver was a research vessel, lightly armed and not built for combat. But they couldn't let unknown aliens access an old human facility, even an abandoned one. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered, "but keep us at maximum sensor range. Jin, any response from Fleet Command?" "Negative, Lieutenant, but I'm picking up more signals from Omega-7. There," responding to the alien vessels. The bridge fell silent. For centuries, humanity had hidden its true technological capabilities, letting the galaxy think they were a primitive, fractured species. But Senna knew the truth: Earth's isolation had been a cover for unprecedented military and technological advancement. The alien vessels suddenly changed course, accelerating toward the Starweaver. Their sleek, crystalline hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "They're hailing us," Jin announced, surprise evident in his voice. Senna nodded, on screen. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. "I am Ambassador Velan of the Norathi Alliance. We mean you no harm, humans of the Starweaver. Senna kept her expression neutral even as her mind raced. How did they know their ship's name? "This is Lieutenant Senna Blackwood. You've entered restricted human space. State your purpose." The ambassador smiled, an unsettling expression on their alien features. "We've come to awaken what sleeps in Station Omega-7. The great experiment must continue." "Experiment," Rook muttered. "What experiment?" Before anyone could respond, Perseus appeared again, its form more urgent than before. "Lieutenant, I've decoded more of the station's signals. They're not just responding to the Norathi, they're responding to signals from all over the galaxy. Omega-7 wasn't abandoned, it was waiting." Senna's blood ran cold as new contacts appeared on their sensors, dozens, then hundreds of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The sky was filling with vessels of both human and alien design, all converging on their position. Ambassador Velan's smile grew wider. "For centuries, we watched humanity hide behind its walls of silence, but we always knew what you were becoming. The station holds the key, the bridge between our peoples that was built long ago." Warning klaxons blared as the Starweaver's sensors detected energy buildups from multiple vessels. Senna gripped her chair's arms, knowing the next few moments would change everything. "Perseus, initiate Protocol Starcaller," she commanded, using command codes she'd hoped never to need. Throughout human space, hidden transmitters would be activating, warning Earth that the time of silence was ending. As weapons fire began to light up the void, Senna Blackwood watched humanity's carefully maintained isolation shatter like glass. The game of shadows and silence was over. Now would come the thunder. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Station Omega-7 continued its ancient broadcast, calling together the pieces of a puzzle that had been centuries in the making. The true war, the one humanity had been preparing for all along, was about to begin. Jin's console suddenly lit up with new signals. "Lieutenant, Earth is responding. The Sanctuary Fleet is deploying, all of it." Senna nodded grimly. Humanity had hidden its strength for centuries, letting the galaxy think them weak. But now, as the stars filled with ships and the void echoed with the songs of battle, the truth would finally be known. The silence had served its purpose. The time for hiding was over. And in the chaos that followed, Senna Blackwood would discover that both humanity and the Norathi were pawns in a game far older and more dangerous than either civilization had imagined. The command center of Station Omega-7 hummed with ancient power as Lieutenant Senna Blackwood studied the holographic displays before her. 2 weeks had passed since the confrontation with the Norathi fleet, and the station's mysteries only deepened with each passing day. "These calculations can't be right," Jin Park muttered, his fingers tracing patterns in the air. According to these logs, the station wasn't just monitoring alien civilizations, it was actively manipulating their development. Rook Williams looked up from a panel he was repairing, his face illuminated by sparks. "Manipulating how?" Before Jin could answer, Perseus materialized in the center of the room. "I've completed my analysis of the station's core systems. The facility appears to be part of a network, one that spans the entire galaxy. But much of the data is locked behind encryption I cannot break." Senna was about to respond when a new figure entered the command center. Ambassador Velan glided forward, their crystalline staff clicking against the metal floor. After the initial confrontation, an uneasy alliance had formed between the human forces and the Norathi delegation. "Your AI speaks truth," Velan said, their voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "But what it cannot see is that this station is merely one piece of a much larger puzzle, one that both our peoples were meant to solve together." A console chimed, drawing their attention. New data scrolled across the screen's ship movements, fleet deployments, diplomatic communications. The galaxy was in chaos. News of humanity's hidden technological advancement had sparked fear and aggression among dozens of species. "The Collective of Seven has declared humanity a threat to galactic stability," Jin reported grimly. "They're mobilizing their defense fleets. The Arcanian Empire is following suit." Senna felt a chill run down her spine. "And the Sanctuary Fleet?" "Holding position at predetermined coordinates," Perseus answered. "Admiral Frost awaits your signal." The mention of Helena Frost, the legendary commander of humanity's hidden armada, made even Ambassador Velan shift uncomfortably. But Senna's attention was drawn to something else, a subtle pattern in the station's power fluctuations. "Perseus, cross-reference these energy signatures with the original signal we detected. There's something we're missing." The AI's holographic form flickered as it processed the request. Suddenly, its eyes widened, an unusually human gesture for an artificial being. "Lieutenant, the station isn't just communicating, it's building something." As if in response to Perseus's words, the entire station shuddered. Hidden mechanisms whirred to life, and new holographic displays materialized around them. They showed a map of the galaxy unlike anything Senna had ever seen, not just stars and planets, but lines of force, patterns of energy that connected seemingly random points in space. "The network," Velan breathed, their composure cracking for the first time. "It's actually real." Rook stepped closer to the display, his engineer's mind already analyzing the patterns. "These connections, they're not random. They're forming some kind of lattice." A weapon, Jin said suddenly, his voice tight with realization. The biggest weapon ever conceived. Senna felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her shoulders. Not a weapon, she corrected, understanding flooding through her. A shield. Our ancestors knew something was coming, something that threatened all life in the galaxy. They built this network to protect us. Ambassador Velan's expression changed, becoming almost predatory. Yes, Lieutenant. And now that both Keyes, human and Norathi, have been united at this station, the final phase can begin. The air seemed to crackle with tension as Velan raised their crystalline staff. Energy pulsed through it, interfacing with the station's systems. New data flooded the displays, dark and terrible secrets that had been hidden for millennia. "Perseus, emergency protocol," Senna shouted, but it was too late. The station's systems were already responding to Velan's command codes, codes that should have been impossible for them to possess. "I am sorry, Lieutenant," Velan said, though their voice held no remorse. "But the Norathi have waited too long to let humanity's fear doom us all. The network must be activated now, ready or not." Rook was already moving, his hands flying over control panels. "They're overriding safety protocols. The power surge could tear the station apart." Jin's console erupted in warnings. "Multiple ships dropping out of FTL Norathi warships. They're not alone. I'm reading vessels from at least 3 other species." Senna's mind raced through options. The station's secrets, the network, the ancient threat, it was all connected. But something about Velan's words felt wrong. Their urgency seemed driven by something darker than mere necessity. "Perseus," she said quietly, using a private channel. "Execute contingency protocol Shadow 9. Send everything we've learned to Admiral Frost, and tell her the silence ends now." As alarms blared and the station's power continued to build, Senna Blackwood faced Ambassador Velan. Behind her, Jin and Rook moved into position, their loyalty unquestioning. "You're right about one thing, Ambassador," she said, drawing her sidearm. "The network is real, but if you think humanity spent centuries hiding just to hand over its control to the Norathi, you don't understand us at all." The station trembled as its ancient systems pushed toward overload. Outside, fleets gathered like storm clouds, ready to wage war over secrets older than their civilizations. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, something stirred, awakened by the very defenses meant to contain it. The game of shadows was evolving into something far more dangerous. And as Senna prepared for battle, she couldn't shake the feeling that both humanity and the Norathi were being played by forces they barely understood. The bridge of the adamant dawn crackled with tension as Admiral Helena Frost watched the tactical display. Hundreds of ships, human, Norathi, and others formed a deadly dance around Station Omega-7. At the center of it all, Lieutenant Blackwood's signal pulsed steadily, a beacon in the chaos. "Multiple targeting locks from Norathi vessels," reported Captain Thuron Wade, his cybernetic eye glowing as it processed battlefield data. "They're positioning for a full assault on the station." Frost's silver hair gleamed under the bridge lights as she studied the evolving situation. The Sanctuary Fleet, humanity's hidden armada, had emerged from its secret staging points, revealing centuries of technological advancement. But even their impressive firepower seemed insignificant compared to the power building within Omega-7. "Status of Lieutenant Blackwood's team?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of command. "Still holding the central control room," Wade responded. "But the station's power levels are becoming critical. Whatever the Norathi are trying to activate, it's straining the ancient systems." A new hologram materialized, Perseus, its form flickering across vast distances. "Admiral, I've completed analysis of the data Lieutenant Blackwood transmitted. The network isn't just a defensive system. It's a map to something the ancients feared enough to hide across an entire galaxy." Frost's eyes narrowed. "Explain." The stations, the power signatures, the hidden protocols, they're all connected to astronomical anomalies that appeared 3,000 years ago. The ancients called it the wound in reality. They built the network not to defend against it, but to seal it. Inside Station Omega-7, Senna Blackwood and her team had barricaded themselves in the control center. Jin Park worked frantically at his console, while Rook Williams reinforced the doors with salvaged equipment. "The power surge is reaching critical levels," Jin reported, sweat beading on his forehead. "If we can't shut it down, the whole station could collapse into subspace." Ambassador Velan's forces pounded at the barriers, their energy weapons leaving scorch marks on the ancient metal. The Norathi leader's voice echoed through the station's commons. "You cannot stop what must be done, Lieutenant. The seals are failing. If the network isn't activated now, everything dies." Senna checked her weapons charge while studying the station's readings. "Perseus, what aren't they telling us? Why are they so desperate to activate the network?" The AI's response came through their secure channel, cross-referencing historical data with current stellar positions. "Lieutenant, I don't believe the Norathi want to activate the network. They want to reverse it." A massive explosion rocked the station. Through the breach stepped Ambassador Velan, their crystalline staff pulsing with deadly energy. But their usual composure had cracked, revealing something close to fear. "You don't understand," Velan said, their voice trembling. "We found the truth in ancient ruins. The network wasn't built to protect life, it was built to imprison it, to chain the true inheritors of the galaxy, our gods." Outside, the battle erupted in earnest. The Sanctuary Fleet engaged the Norathi Armada, ships dancing through the void in lethal synchronization. Admiral Frost's voice cut through the chaos on all channels. "This is Admiral Helena Frost of the Earth Sanctuary Fleet. To all vessels in range, Station Omega-7 contains protocols vital to galactic survival. Stand down or be destroyed." But the Norathi ships pressed their attack, desperate to reach the station. As they fought, strange readings began appearing on sensors, spatial distortions that shouldn't have been possible. "The network is destabilizing," Perseus announced, its voice carrying across all channels. "The seals, they're breaking down, something is coming through." In the control room, Senna watched in horror as new data flooded the screens. The network wasn't just connected to Omega-7. It was connected to hundreds of similar stations across the galaxy. And at each point, space itself was beginning to tear. "Rook Jin, seal those terminals," she ordered. "We have to lock down the network before." Her words cut off as a massive tremor shook the station. Through the observation windows, they could see it, a tear in reality itself, spreading like a wound across the stars. And through that tear came something that defied description, vast, ancient, and terribly alive. "The gods return," Velan whispered, dropping to their knees. "The predecessors awaken." Admiral Frost's voice cracked across the comms. "All ships, defensive formation Delta. Lieutenant Blackwood, whatever you're going to do it now." Senna looked at her team, Jin's determined face, Rook's steady hands, Perseus's unwavering presence. Then she looked at the station's controls, seeing them with new understanding. The ancients hadn't built the network to imprison gods or seal away monsters. They'd built it to save what they couldn't defeat. "Perseus," she said quietly, "initiate network protocol Omega. Full power, all stations." As energy surged through the ancient machinery, as fleets clashed in the void, as reality itself seemed to shudder, Senna Blackwood prepared to make a choice that would reshape the galaxy. The time of silence had ended. Now came the time of thunder, of truth, and of terrible revelation. And in the darkness between stars, the thing that had waited for eons finally began to speak. The vastness of space distorted around Station Omega-7 as the predecessor emerged, a being of impossible geometries and ancient power. Admiral Frost's fleet held position, weapons trained on both the dimensional tier and the increasingly erratic Norathi ships. Multiple breaches detected throughout the sector, Captain Wade reported, his cybernetic eye flickering with data. Similar entities emerging at every network node. The Norathi, they're broadcasting some kind of signal to them. Lieutenant Senna Blackwood watched from Omega-7's control center as the ancient machinery hummed with power. The network protocol she'd activated was doing something unexpected, not fighting the tiers in reality, but reshaping them. "Perseus," she called out, "what exactly did we activate?" The AI's form stabilized beside her, its expression unusually solemn. "The network isn't a weapon or a prison, Lieutenant. It's a translation matrix. The ancients didn't seal away the predecessors. They tried to communicate with them." Ambassador Velen laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "Communication? Our gods need no translation. They need freedom, vengeance, the galaxy that was stolen from them." But Rook Williams had noticed something in the station's readings. These power signatures, they're forming a pattern, like a language written in quantum states. Jin Park's fingers flew across his console. He's right. The network isn't just connecting the stations, it's connecting thoughts, consciousness. The ancients built a bridge between different forms of existence. Outside, the predecessor's vast form began to change, its impossible geometry shifting in response to the network's activation. Similar transformations were happening across the galaxy, as ancient beings responded to a call 3,000 years in the making. Admiral Frost's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships hold position, something's happening to the entities." The Norathi fleet's coordinated attack suddenly faltered. Their ships began moving erratically, as if their crews were losing control. Ambassador Velen stumbled, their crystalline staff cracking with strain. "No," they whispered. "This isn't what the prophecies foretold. The gods were supposed to restore us, elevate us." "They're not gods," Senna realized, watching the patterns form in the network's data. "They're refugees, survivors from a universe that died. The ancients didn't imprison them, they tried to save them, to help them exist in our reality." Perseus's form pulsed with new understanding. "The silence, humanity's centuries of isolation. We weren't hiding our strength, we were learning to listen." Through the observation windows, they watched as the predecessor's form continued to transform. Its impossible angles resolved into something almost comprehensible, a bridge between what was and what could be. But the Norathi ships were now charging weapons, their crews driven by desperate faith and shattered expectations. Ambassador Velen raised their staff, energy crackling. "If we cannot have ascension," they declared, "then let oblivion take us all." Senna's hand found her weapon even as Jin and Rook moved to protect their stations. But it was Admiral Frost who acted first. The adamant dawn fired a precise burst, destroying Velen's staff and shattering the device they had used to control the Norathi fleet. "Lieutenant Blackwood," Frost transmitted, "whatever you've discovered about the network, use it, now." Senna looked at her team, at Perseus's waiting form, at the patterns of energy that connected worlds and minds and realities. She understood now why humanity's silence had been so important, why they had needed to learn to listen before they could speak. "Perseus," she commanded, "full power to the translation matrix. All stations, all frequencies, let's show them why we waited so long to find our voice." As the network hummed to life, as ancient machinery fulfilled its true purpose, the galaxy held its breath. The time of silence was over. The time of understanding had begun. And in the space between moments, between thoughts, between realities themselves, something new began to take shape, a conversation 3,000 years in the making. The galaxy blazed with light as the network reached full power. At every node, at every station, the barriers between realities thinned, not to break, but to bridge. Lieutenant Senna Blackwood stood at the heart of it all, watching as humanity's long silence finally bore fruit. Translation matrix at full capacity, Jin Park announced, his voice filled with wonder. The network it's singing, Lieutenant. Every station, every node, creating a harmony of thought and existence. Through the adamant Dawn's asterisk sensors, Admiral Frost and Captain Wade watched as the predecessors transformed. Their impossible geometries resolved into patterns that human minds could almost comprehend, living equations, thoughts given form, survivors of a reality that had ended long ago. The Norathi ships are standing down, Wade reported. Their crews. They're receiving the translation too, understanding what their gods really are. Ambassador Velen lay slumped against a console, their certainties shattered but their mind opening to new truths. All this time, they whispered, we misunderstood. The prophecies weren't about vengeance or dominion, they were trying to tell us that we needed to learn to listen, Rook Williams finished, his engineer's mind grasping the elegance of the ancient's design. The network wasn't built to imprison or destroy, it was built to teach. Perseus materialized across multiple locations simultaneously, its form resonating with the network's power. Humanity's silence wasn't submission or fear, it was preparation. While other species sought dominion over the stars, Earth turned inward, learning the art of true communication. Senna watched as the translation matrix did its work. The predecessors weren't invaders or destroyers, they were scholars, artists, dreamers who had survived the death of their universe. The ancients had found them drifting in the void between realities and had built the network not to cage them, but to give them a chance at a new kind of existence. Admiral, she transmitted, the Norathi weren't entirely wrong. The network is changing everything, but not through destruction. Frost's voice carried understanding. Through transformation, connection, the very things humanity spent centuries mastering. Across the galaxy, ships of all species gathered around the network nodes, their crews witnessing the birth of something unprecedented. The predecessors' knowledge, art, science, philosophy from a reality that had evolved along entirely different lines began to flow through the translation matrix. Ambassador Velan struggled to their feet, their crystalline technology resonating with the network's harmonies. We thought we were chosen to resurrect gods, they said quietly. Instead, we were chosen to be witnesses, to learn. In the space around Omega-7, the first predecessor had fully transformed. Its new form was a symphony of light and thought, a bridge between what was and what could be. Through the network, its first translated words reached every ship, every station, every world. We have waited so long for those who could hear us, who could understand that existence is not about power but about connection, about growth, about the endless dance of becoming. Senna looked at her team, Jin's tears of joy, Rook's quiet amazement, Perseus's profound satisfaction. Then she looked out at the stars, where Admiral Frost's fleet held position alongside their former enemies, all of them united in witness to this moment. Perseus, she said softly, send word to Earth. Tell them that the silence served its purpose. We learned to listen, now it's time to join the conversation. As the network continued its work, as ancient knowledge flowed between realities, as former enemies became students of something greater than themselves, the galaxy changed. Not through war or conquest, but through understanding, through connection, through the simple, profound art of learning to hear what had always been waiting to be heard. Ambassador Velen approached Senna, their posture now one of respect rather than superiority. Your people knew, they said. All those centuries of silence, you were preparing for this moment. No, Senna replied, watching as more predecessors transformed, as more knowledge flowed, as more barriers between thought and form and reality fell away. We were becoming worthy of it. In the void between stars, in the space between thoughts, in the harmony of technologies ancient and new, humanity's long silence finally ended. And in its place arose something greater, a symphony of understanding that would reshape not just their galaxy, but the very nature of existence itself. Admiral Frost's voice carried across all channels, speaking humanity's first official words to the greater galaxy. We are ready to join the conversation, all of us, together. And the stars themselves seemed to sing in response. As the future opened up before them, infinite, beautiful, and full of possibilities that no single species, no single reality could have imagined alone. The silence had ended, the symphony had begun.